So where is that going to take you? It's going to take you to some very, very interesting places. And what it's doing is it's driving different paradigms and different applications for this kind of device. So people are interacting with them in different ways. As you can see there, there's roughly 40% of what people are doing with the iPad is new activity. Yeah? They're consuming different kinds of content to what they consume sitting at their PC, and different kinds of content to what they're doing with their smartphones. It's a function of the overall form factor of that device. It just opens that up. And within that, there are some really significant opportunities. So, as I said earlier on, one of our core marketplaces is the media sector. And for a long time, all we've heard from our media customers is our market is in decline, Google owns the advertising, you've got to do twice as much work to generate less revenue, and we're losing money left, right, and center. What are we going to do about this? And the solution to that was, well, you've got to sell smarter, sell more efficiently, and so on and so forth. But that really wasn't working. So they started moving into digital and trying to compete in a different way. And then you start to realize, actually, there is real hope in here. Because what you start to see is this data that tells you that average news consumption has increased significantly in the last few years. And that actually, the average age of the reader, that's driven by readers under the age of 35. So now go back to what we heard earlier on about Generation X and Generation Y, right? That generation, Generation Y, has an appetite for news. It has an appetite for media, right? And whilst Google may own the web and web advertising, it does not own applications. And applications are the way, increasingly, that generation is consuming content. You think about News International with the Times Online. Yeah? You think about, so how many people here are members of the IOD, the Institute of Directors? Must be a few? Yeah, one or two? So the IOD, now, instead of getting the IOD monthly magazine dropping on your doormat, you can choose to get that downloaded to your iPad in an application. Okay? Now, Google does not own the advertising that sits within there. So you've got a massive platform in the iPad that's expanding. You've got a new channel for your advertising, for your content, and with that, a new channel for advertising. And that is the ray of light at the end of the tunnel as far as the media industry is concerned. And in order to implement that and take advantage of it, what we're now seeing is the advent, and this is something which we're directly involved in, of this smart application stack, entirely resident in the cloud, which takes through sales process, all the content workflow, both on advertising and on editorial, packaged together and allowing you to distribute that through multiple channels, to print, to the web, and into applications. And that's the big ray of light. And allow you to package it and price it, test things out. Again, Richard was talking about test the market. So why do you want to go and build something that is difficult to take to market to find out that it doesn't work? You don't want to do that. And yet most of the applications that were being used in the media sector actually forced customers in to do that because it was too difficult to change the pricing and the packaging models of that content. Now that's not true anymore. So you can test out marketing, you can test out pricing and packaging, change it if it doesn't work, and find something that does. That's a huge benefit for the media sector, and that's being driven off combinations of Salesforce, of a platform called Media Spectrum, which is what provides all that content management, Radiant 6, which is going out, pulling social content from various sources, aggregating that, telling you what the marketplace is saying about your product or service, and Salesforce.com driving the whole ad sales process and the customer management. And a big organization, Trinity Mirror, has adopted this. They have that rolled out, and that's saving them literally a three-figure, in terms of millions, hundreds of £1 million every year on the pre-press. It's a real transforming capability that they're taking to market. And incidentally, what they also announced that just came out yesterday is they're also knocking out their email and desktop infrastructure and replacing all of that with Google Apps. So they're moving to the cloud in a big way. And this is what Stadia is involved in, and this is the kind of drivers that we're seeing in the marketplace and that we're responding to. So let me come back to the point where we started out, which is, so what does a Stadia look like? This is our UK business. We're a company of about 250 people, about 50 of those in the UK. And as you can see from there, they're kind of scattered loosely around. We've got somebody in France. We have a couple of people over in Ireland. We have an office on Trafalgar Square, which accommodates 4 of them. Everybody else works from home. Our office admin, our office manager is up there in Scotland. So our function is completely distributed across the UK. We just want people to be close to the customer, and coming back to the question in the last presentation, you know, I want it done to a level of quality. I want it done to make the customer satisfied and delighted. Those are the only things that really matter. When you do it, how you do it, we give you a toolkit, that's our expectation, and we build our culture around that. Move on. So in terms of the landscape and how we actually deliver that, in the UK we have a 0 server environment. We have, as I said, 50 people here, roughly 50, 60 people in our development center over in Gurgaon, just outside Delhi in India, and 150 or so out of 3 hubs in the United States. There are 2 servers in Delhi. There is 1 server in Dallas, which is doing some file and print in our finance office. That is it. Everything else exists in the cloud. And that's the architecture that we have across the business. So this is run on a combination of all of our front office, our customer management, sales, customer service, marketing, and social enterprise integration and so on. All of that is run on the Salesforce platform. We use Eloqua, which is a marketing tool that sits on the front of that, that's drawing in leads, managing those leads. We use it as a campaigning tool for doing email and tracking the digital signature on the digital body language of certain buyers to tell us who's interested in what as they visit our website. We then have our middle office and back office, which is run on NetSuite OpenAir. OpenAir is a PSA tool. It's where we do our time recording, all our project management, all our expense management. That is integrated with Salesforce, so we roll up dashboards on our progress with projects and customers into Salesforce, and it's displayed in there. And then we have a product called SuccessFactors. SuccessFactors, again, is a cloud-based application. It's where we have all our competency management, where we do all our HR management, where we create and manage all the objectives at an individual level and roll those objectives up to a corporate goal and manage and review those on a regular basis. I was listening. And then we have a couple of conferencing platforms. So CCS and Vodafone provide our local mobile network. Televations provides a voice over IP infrastructure which connects us both to 4-digit dialing both to India and to the US. And ReadyTalk for web conferencing. And Google for email and desktop applications, as well as backup and storage for shared documents. So that allows us to run a $35 million business. And that, through the cloud, allows you to take your data anywhere. So as far as I'm concerned, it makes no difference to me if I'm sitting in our office in Trafalgar Square, if I'm sitting in Starbucks, or sitting on the train coming to Newcastle, or at home. I have access to everything in exactly the same way. And apart from a few dodgy patches and the Wi-Fi coverage on the train, pretty much the same quality of access to it. And of course, what we're seeing is the advent of this concept of a third office. So I don't know if you've come across this, but Coffee House is, or Underground's Coffee House, is a coffee shop over in California where they don't have a fixed price. It is it's become the third office. You've got your home office, you've got your office, and you've got your third office, which is typically a coffee shop. And they don't charge you a fixed price. You can just walk in, have a cup of coffee, and stay as long as you like, and you just put down whatever you think is appropriate. Guess what? Their margins are enormous. You know, people will pay $10 for a cup of coffee if they can sit around there, get free Wi-Fi, and be undisturbed for a couple of hours. It's a great business model. And the question that normally then arises off the back of this is, that's all very well, but is it safe? How secure is my data? I pushed it all out there to who knows where. And is it really safe? And the best example I have got of the idiosyncrasies that tend to exist in people's minds about data security is I was sitting in the office of a not-for-profit organisation who are based in the heart of London, W1. Right in the heart of W1, you know, with the sex shops over there and Chinatown over there and so on and so forth. And they were talking about, you know, is it safe if we put this data about our service users onto this platform? Now today, they store their service user data in a filing cabinet on the ground floor by a window which is frequently unlocked, right? And they were kind of concerned about if they took all of that data and pushed it out into the cloud. You know, you tell me which is the more secure environment. So this is an example of Salesforce. Salesforce publishes through trust.salesforce.com all of the stats that you'll ever need on the availability, uptime, security, performance of their infrastructure. So it is a shared infrastructure. It provides 2 data centers, one on either coast, that will fail over one to the other in the event of either of them having a problem being taken out. There's massive physical security, there is massive network security, there is massive power security and redundancy in there. This is several $100 million of investment in computing infrastructure. In addition to that, there's a little logo that's actually, I think, becoming increasingly important, particularly in the context of today's subject matter, which is the one on the far right at the bottom, ValidSoft, because what we're also seeing, of course, is the advent of the concept of BYOD, bring your own device, where it's up to the consumer. You know, the consumer is very particular about, you know, whether they have, as somebody beautifully put it this morning, a fruit-based product or a robot-based product or a Lumia. Well, it's actually increasingly, you know, the employers are saying, actually, I'm very attached to one of these. I don't want the device that the business is going to give me. I want to be able to use my own device because I'm familiar with it and it's just far easier for me and I don't want to carry 2 around. So there is this emerging trend of bring your own device, but how do you secure your corporate data if you allow that policy? So there is an emerging market, which ValidSoft is one of the leaders in that, about securing that corporate data and ensuring that that policy can be made to operate effectively. So the next thing I was going to talk about is just customer interactions. I'm going to talk about social for a little bit, because this is really something which has been touched on a few times, and it's an amazingly important part of the whole business landscape. There is, you know, the mobile platforms are driving huge amounts of social messaging, social traffic. There is more traffic generated off handheld devices now going onto Facebook and Twitter than there is from the desktop. So it's got a massive impact on this market. And of course, what we saw earlier on this year was what's now referred to as Arab Spring. It's fascinating that in a country where there is only a 5% penetration of these social networks, actually that led to a series of events. A campaign that started out on Facebook led to a series of events which eventually overthrew a government. Now, how did that happen? Well, of course, there's only 5% penetration of the mobile, of the social networks, but there's 85% penetration of television. And as the campaign started to gain impetus and gain momentum, of course, it became a television news story. It got onto TV, and that's when it really became a vehicle that started to have a massive impact. The question I'd pose to you is this. That was a really radical event. We've seen other examples of it subsequently. But as a CEO running a business, how long is it going to be before there is a campaign about your business on Facebook? And you're the CEO, and you're responsible for the perception, for the shareholder value. And out there's a campaign on Facebook which is dissing and undermining the value of your brand. How long will it be before a CEO falls, is taken down by that kind of eventuality? Rhetorical question. We don't have to answer it now. All I'd suggest is this is not limited to the States. This is an event. The adoption of mobile technology is something which is going on all over the world. The adoption of social networks and the interactions on social networks, there are far more of those taking place outside of North America than there are in, as you can see from that slide, and it's something which needs to be taken seriously.